I think Slayer overall kind of hit the nail on the head with what I think my overall thoughts are, where it's like Voracious is better.
That was a jump scare. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Salt Mine. We've been away for the new year so far, but we are back with Season 4, Episode 19. We had a little discussion about this. We're not starting Season 5 until we can do power rankings, and that may be a little later than usual this year because we're not we don't have Winter Split. So we'll talk about OQs and stuff a little bit probably, but won't officially be Season 5 until we get into that spring split. But I'm Gordo. I'm joined by Slayer, Quax, and TDS once again. Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone had an excellent New Year's. We've tried to record this episode a couple of times and been disrupted by various happenings. I had the COVID for a couple of weeks. That sucked. Others had other stuff come up. It's been terrible. But
holidays and hay fever, basically. Everyone was sick around the New Year's time, so including me. So it was kind of getting through that and stuff. And then obviously before that it was the holidays. So it's been a little bit, but yeah, I'm glad to be back finally. And new year and new meta as well, right? Obviously Summoner's Rift looks a little bit different, and as such, everything that comes with it is going to be a little bit different as well. We've already seen a few notes of that, especially with the LPL starting up already and the LEC starting up as of the time of recording this, as well as the LCK. LTA, the only one that hasn't begun. By the time I think this drops, it'll be tomorrow that it goes out, right? Because we usually post these on Fridays.
If I keep my schedule, that is how it'll be. And I intend to keep the schedule to the best of my abilities. So should be dropping this one on Friday morning. On the LPL note, shout out to our boy Slayer for joining the LPL English cast. Gotten to see a couple of your VODs already, brother. Good to see you on there.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate it. It's been a blast. I'm definitely still learning. If you thought it was annoying trying to figure out NA players' name pronunciations, man, as a full-blooded American, it's taken me some time to try and nail some of these Shaos and all the other rest of the names, but it's been a blast for sure.
Yeah.
You'll get
having
there.
to learn them at like 3 a.m. for you as well, right?
Yeah, as well, yeah. Just full night owl. But hey, that's what you got to do.
That's what you got to do. It's all right. Salt Mine stays winning. Congratulations, my friend. Let's talk a little bit about the 2025 meta, though, to get things started off. We're in Noxus season. We got the Noxus map. We got Otacon. We got Feats of Strength. We got Blood Petals. We got Tier 3 boots again. I'm trying to think of what other fun things you could discuss in there, but that's...
minion health changes are pretty big.
That's real exciting.
It's
arguably the most impactful one.
It's the most impactful one. It is the most impactful one, but probably when you think fun, oh wait, minions change. Yay.
Yeah, I suppose, but I think for pro play, having the minions be built more glass cannon on like that kind of archetype is really crazy for like getting priority and pushing and just being able to make aggressive plays, right? Because oftentimes you're able to make aggressive plays in the jungle because you have that priority, which is now easier to get because the minions have significantly less HP, are not as tanky as they were in the previous season. So shove champions like Ahri are that much better because it doesn't take as long to insta-clear a wave in 2 seconds with just one Q and a couple Ws.
It also feels like champions that don't clear that great, like just can be at any point, at any fight, just because you do clear anyway. So like that way of forcing the situation into being fights consistently does make it a little bit more relevant to the idea of the season, right? Like the idea is fight till the death. And if you have more members, it's going to be more fight. So it makes kind of a bit of sense. I feel like in general, I do like the theme and the motive that everything has been going for in terms of the season. I do think Otacon can get some changes. I don't like the free revive. Not necessarily because it's not fun or anything like that. I just I don't like
it's just
punishment free.
Come on, just say it with your chest.
No, not even that.
Bad.
Like Not even that. I just don't like that people get a get out of jail card for nothing for
Yeah.
fighting like that. Like that's my only thing. Like if it was something else or a little bit of a different benefit, I would be perfectly fine with it. But get a free jail card. It's not something I've always found fun. So yeah.
And it's been spawning a lot in the LPL. I mean, I've been watching a decent amount of VODs in my spare time. I was just on call with Yanni yesterday, as of the time of recording this, and we were watching. I believe it was LGD versus Anyone's Legend, and I think the Revive Otacon spawned all 3 games, which speaks to I actually think LPL, if any year was their year, this is their year. I remember last year after they got when they lost to T1 in the finals and they didn't win Worlds for another year, they freaked out and were like, "This season sucks. We're never going to be able to beat. We're never going to be able to beat Korea." This season feels tailor-made for fighting, and that's exactly what LPL does. So I do feel like that this is kind of a glaze for Slayer again. But if you're not watching LPL and you don't know how to fight, if you want to improve your solo queue, hands diffing people thing, then I think that is the region that you unironically need to like put under a microscope through all of 2025, because that's the central theme, like TDS said.
Yeah.
I think the most intriguing stuff when it comes to like talking about this new season is I can't remember a season. There's been Worlds patches where I've felt this, but I can't remember a start to a season with major changes where it's so starkly different of an experience as a solo queue player versus like the pro leagues, right? And like going off the Atacon point alone, yeah, I mean the LPL games, I don't think there's yet to be a voracious Octagon. Maybe there's been one or two.
It's like impossible.
It's impossible. They don't play fast enough to ever land on Ruinous Octagon. Sorry, I switched up. We haven't seen a Ruinous Octagon, but you play solo queue, and this is probably true for most regions, definitely all the regions in the West, right? The solo queue regions in the West. You're playing Ruinous Octagon every game because nobody's playing slow enough to get the voracious Octagon. So it's going to be so intriguing to watch Riot try and balance this. I know we are always so critical of Riot. They make changes that are hated a lot of the good amount of the time, but I truly wish that I was not on the balance team, because they're about to put a line in the sand here with whatever changes they do and say, okay, we're gonna pander more to pro, we're gonna pander more towards solo queue, because one way or another, if they nerf certain parts of one side, it's going to greatly affect the other side.
Well, I do feel like it is kind of a bit of a mix, right? Because I feel like if they really specifically wanted to pander toward pro play, and obviously they're changing this already, but like they wouldn't have added First Blood as an objective for getting feats of strength. That feels like a purely solo queue change to me, in my opinion, right? Because for First Blood, and obviously, like, First Blood in most regions does not happen within the first 5 minutes, right? Barring anyone, like, hard screwing up, I feel like First Blood is usually reserved for, like, the 5 to 10 minute mark, or you fight around, like, a second dragon or potentially first grubs. You usually won't see any crazy amounts of action until then, again, barring any mess-ups, with the exception of LPL. So I do feel like that is kind of where they were drawing a line in the sand, saying, all right, this feels like a solo queue change, specifically for the people that are playing ranked on the servers, not necessarily in pro, that we're adding First Blood as a feat. Obviously, like I said, they're changing that. Now I believe it's going to be 3 kills before you get that feat, which is a lot healthier, I have to tell you. As a jungler, usually we are the causes of First Bloods. And when I say it's unhealthy for the game for First Blood to be a feat, I mean it. I really did not like that. And it felt like, even though the tier 3 boots are, their power comes into question a lot with the season being so new. Some people think they're broken. Others think they're not as strong. It's kind of a placebo effect in my mind, where if you get the tier 3, people start to give up. They're not as big of a deal, but it does significantly increase your chances of getting them. And no matter how small, getting those boots is an advantage, no matter how you splice it.
Well, technically speaking, if you get those boots, it means that you're winning the game. So, quote unquote, it is an advantage.
The stats are all
like like more than the stats, I just say like I'm following Quax here. Like the placebo more so than the boots is on the fact that you're already winning. So like yeah, it's going to feel more powerful anyway. But yeah, the fact that it's more solo queue based compared to pro play based, and I think this is like my approach is that it's always healthier to pander to the bigger community than to the smaller community. Just because if you want to keep your game alive, you have to pander to the bigger community.
That's, you gotta pander to the normies.
Yeah, that's just simply how it works. Because if you go for the smaller amount of people, like they can they can bring the game to great highs or things like that. But you also have to pander for the people that will spend money. So you have to be consider that part. But apart from trying to pander to the solo queue, I feel like pro play has done a really good job at trying to adapt to that really well. And they've always done this in multiple seasons, but particularly in this one, I think barring maybe LEC, because I think that those like, well, maybe it's just me because I saw Rogue Games
LEC
and
sucks.
Yeah, no, screw watching Rogue Games. I don't ever want to repeat that. But like I think LCK and LPL have been really good at just trying to make the game be focused around trying to find as objectives possible. And I think that's been enjoyable. Like yes, kills may not be quick, but they still are. There's meaning behind things that happen, and I think that's been enjoyable to watch as someone that tries to analyze the game. Like I think there's been meaning to a lot of more things compared to previous seasons to try and get the advantage as early as possible, and also fight around the revive has been really interesting. Watching the teams fight around it as smart as possible.
Yeah, people have been like way too. I do think like Otacon is super strong, obviously, especially the Voracious Otacon. It's Voracious Otacon every time. Like there's been LPL games where it's like 20 kills at 20 minutes. You know, like a kill a minute has been like the bar for a high action game of pro play for forever, and even that is not enough to spawn the Ravenous Otacon or I keep saying Ravenous, the Ruinous Otacon. Ravenous means the same thing as Voracious. Ruinous Otacon is the one that never spawns in pro. I know they're doing some efforts in this next patch to try to make there be a little bit more variance
they're tweaking the spawn rate of Voracious, because in solo queue, I think they said Voracious only spawned 15% of the time.
Yeah, I thought they were tweaking both. I thought they were making it.
I don't think so. Well, I mean, if they tweak one, they kind of have to tweak the other. Right, so like Voracious went from now it's supposed to be spawning 15% of your solo queue games to now it's going to be 25, so 1 in 4.
Okay.
So a little bit more. Obviously, it won't be the predominant one. Because I think in my solo queue games, because I've been playing the game a lot lately just to try and get a handle for the meta. I think I've had the revive twice out of like the 40 ranked games that I've played. So it's rare, right? So I actually like that that's coming to light a little bit more. That said, going back to what TDS said earlier, that revive is total utter bullshit. I think the fact that you essentially, and this is something I'm expecting teams to pick up on as the season goes by, is to just throw yourself at the enemy as soon as you have that revive. Like you get that revive, you go for a reset, you get on the map, and you just chuck all 5 of you Hail Mary onto the enemy team. You dive towers, you go in. It doesn't matter how bad the odds are, because even if you get 1 kill and they kill all 5 of you, it's still basically worth it for your team, because because you only get what, like 200 gold. I believe they're changing that.
They're changing it to 200, which I think will help a little bit. Like
I don't think it'll help a lot, to be honest with you. I feel like 100 and 200 gold around the 20-minute mark is still really bad, right? Like
but that's per kill, right? You get if you all die, it's 1,000 gold to the other team. That's worth that's worth more than like an outer tower, right?
That's like 1 shutdown on a super fed member, but you don't lose. But like you as the team that died and gave 1,000 gold, you don't lose any tempo off doing that, because you immediately can get back onto the map, make a play. After that fight, you probably burned ults, sums, crucial like resources from the team.
I think that's the biggest thing here, because my point always watching Atakan was never like, it hasn't been as dominant, like teams haven't been dominating as much. But the problem is not that teams are not dominating. The problem is that when there's a clear, and I mean clear divide between top and mid and bottom team, that's where the problematic Anakin is going to come. Because if we have a situation where Anakin is still available, let's say towards not Worlds, but let's say MSI, and we have a Gen G of last year, a BLG of last year, and what was the other team that LPL sent? A TS from last year. I won't count to one because they were bad in MSI. They were quote unquote bad in MSI. So let's say those three teams going into MSI with that. Like they will be extremely and utterly dominant against any other team if they are able to make use of those things like Quax is describing, because the separation between a top team understanding those things and a mid team that doesn't understand them very well, giving them an extra out whenever they want to go for risky plays, it's just going to make them even more dominant. And that's where the clear divide is going to appear. Right now, it's not as evident because teams are still trying to like find the groove, find the point in the season where they're at, see how they want to fight and what they want to do, or things like that, like the early season shenanigans that we always see. But
I feel like
as the game goes, it's going to happen more, I feel like.
I'm almost seeing like the opposite. I'm seeing like crazy one-sided situations where like a team just gets like Voracious Otacon for free, and then obviously they they take it down whatever lane they need to and they win the game because they got Voracious Otacon for free. And then everybody on Reddit rolls up and it's like, oh, Voracious Otacon is just so broken. There's no way to win the game. It's like, I don't know. Like taking the Nexus is broken, man. There's some things that when you do them, you win the game. It's not like sometimes you lose the game because you gave up stuff for free, regardless of how strong rather than the power of that individual stuff. I do think the buff's probably too strong, though. They'll probably tamp it down.
I kind of have the opposite thought though on Ruinous. Ironically, though, like in my mind. So this is something that I actually kind of hope I'm right on. And I think it's something that teams might take into consideration later down the line. If you are a team, because we've seen this a lot in LPL, we have seen a team get super ahead, and Slayer can vouch for this. We have seen a team get super duper ahead, and then Otacon rolls up to the club, and they lose the fight at Otacon, they lose Otacon, and they end up losing the game, right? They basically force themselves to go on this objective and lose the game because of it, because they put themselves in a 5v5 fight that they were taking damage from Otacon, who does a shitload of damage and nobody is talking about it.
AoE damage.
Yeah, AoE damage, most notably. Like this is essentially a Baron. Like I feel like
it's a new Baron trope.
Yes.
You have to start treating Otacon like Nashor. You can't just roll up to it without any prep or getting a prep, which is what I feel like a lot of teams are doing. That said, I think Ruinous is not worth it if you are ahead. And you can disagree with me on this if you want. The XP that you get from it, to me, is not super valuable. And you overcommit all 5 of your members onto one side of the map, essentially leaving like 90% of the map open for the other team to take towers, a Drake if it's on the top side, a Herald or a like a turret if it's on the bot side of the map. You leave the complete opposite side of the map open for the enemy team to just ravage and get vision and potentially equalize the gold that you guys had, which was previously a deficit and now might not be as much of one. So while I think Voracious, you should be like treating this thing like it's your child and fighting for it like all day and night. Ruinous, I think, is conditionally strong, where if you're ahead, go ahead and get it, but you don't have to overcommit for it necessarily.
I think that the way you described it at the end for Ruinous specifically is what I think is most important, because I'm of the opinion on the pro play level that Ruinous is like low-key better than Voracious. And sure, you can like shoot and quarter me for saying it. I think it's very particularly situational, though. I think it's not every time. Here, I'll say it this way. Most of the times Voracious is the more overpowered one. But it's kind of like how, like the flat... I guess I'll use a football analogy. It's like the flat... Hey, you know what? I got one in store here. Saquon Barkley is the guy that scores all the touchdowns for the Eagles. He's the one. He's the one rushing. At least Gordo knows who I'm talking about. I'll go with at least one guy who's gonna get this analogy. The guy that runs for 2,000 yards, scores all the touchdowns. He's the running back. He's very flashy. He's very nice. Most of the time, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's the greatest one. You should always plan for him." Yada yada yada. But he doesn't get that if it isn't for the O-line, who are, sometimes more important than he actually is, even if he's the one catching everything in. I think for Ruinous Otacon, if you're in a game state where you're ahead and you have 6 grubs, you're stacking dragons heavily already. You've got most of your monster slaying scores you got on dragons. You cash Ruinous in, you buff so much of those raw stats that I think it actually can be a game changer. So,
okay,
but I do agree.
On that point.
Yeah, so I think
if you
in specific situations, if you have Drake lead, Grub lead, that's when Ruinous can be a bit more powerful, especially in the pro level, because if you're not already very ahead with Voracious, yes, you can force fights and force the revives, but I've seen a couple of times where teams are just very hands-off. Yeah, you're giving up some tier 2 turrets, but you can wait this buff out. It doesn't last forever. And
it only lasts 2.5 minutes. Like
2.5 minutes. And a lot of teams in the LPL level have just kind of waited it out, and you can throw yourself caution to the wind a little bit, but
it's like
you can't just
most
run
useful
through
when
turrets.
You can convert it into a Baron.
Yes.
And then it's just Baron strong, right? But
but the timing doesn't always line up for that, because
correct,
if you're taking off
spawn
spawn,
you take it at 20 minutes and then it's 22.5 and Baron spawns at 25.
I mean, the other thing with Ruinous though is the flowers, right? You get all the flowers,
and the flowers too,
and those
right?
are like those are more
the
stats.
Are super good.
Those are more
but that's the thing that is
than
becoming,
the dragons. Like
I feel like that's the thing that is becoming though, and it's not that the buffs are weak. This is reminding me of the time where souls were introduced to the game, where when you collect the soul and you get the dragon is great and all, but people, at least with how I remember, were overvaluing souls so much, because apart from quote unquote, I remember at the time, Infernal Soul, when the first 4 souls were introduced, Infernal Soul was realistically the only one that I could say, yeah, that is really strong because of the value of the damage that you get, especially in the time where it was released. But the longer it went, the more I feel like people realized that most of the time, the souls were placebo buffs, more so than actual buffs that you can make a difference with. Particularly Cloud Soul, by the way. Like the Cloud Soul at the time, that was the case. And I think this is getting close to that point where I'm not discounting that they are not strong buffs. I feel like the way that the game is currently at, you can play for any buff, and unless it's I will call them like mythic buffs, which are Baron buff and Elder. Those are game-winning buffs. Like the rest are buffs that you can play around as effectively as possible. Like the other two, the higher to me are always going to be Baron and Elder, and as long as you are not giving up those for free, or even Baron and Elder are playable, but the other I think are more manageable and they feel stronger just because of how they look and what they do, more so than the actual value that they bring to the game, in my eyes, at the very least.
I will say I think it's a little bit hard to compare Soul to like the Otacon buff, and the reason I say that is because the thing we've been talking about specifically with Voracious, right, is you're on a timer to make it work. You have 2.5 minutes for this buff for you to make use of it. With Soul, it's permanent, right? Which is why whenever you see this whole like trading debacle of should you go Baron or should you go Soul, which one will you choose? Find out next week. Fuck
which
all
way,
that.
Western man.
Always go for the Soul unless it's Cloud Soul, right?
See,
like,
that's where I disagree completely. I feel like, and this is a point that I'm still taking from way before to now. I think Soul is still way too overvalued, even if it's a permanent buff. Because there's instances where even with a soul, it doesn't mean you're winning the game just because of what you were playing and how you're playing it. That's why I feel like it always, like, situation is always the most important thing when trying to analyze this. And that's why I feel like teams shouldn't overvalue, like you were mentioning, I think there shouldn't be an overvaluing of certain buffs. Instead, overvalue what the rest of the map gives you. Because, like, yes, you may get like a chance to get a revive or push into a certain instance, but if your composition is going to be fine in 30 minutes anyway, if you're able to weather the storm, you can still fight to win the game even without those things. Like those are going to be more valuable eventually than any other buff in the game. Like apart from Elder, I think Elder in almost any hands can win you the game, but apart from that, everything else should be playable.
I don't know. I agree with you on the whole like it's situational kind of deal, but I don't know. I will never ever underrate the power of Soul.
That's right.
minus Cloud. Cloud, dude, I'm sorry.
That's
Cloud.
entirely
You're
fair. It's okay.
Fuck
Cloud,
outta here, Cloud.
fuck you, Cloud. But yeah,
Hey, there's
I agree.
now. We can fight between those two.
I think Slayer overall kind of hit the nail on the head with what I think my overall thoughts are, where it's like Voracious is better.
That was a jump scare.
Voracious is better in like a broader sense, but Ruinous is situationally good because if you are already stacking dragons, you have a shitload more value on the buff. So yeah, I think the situational nature of it is what makes it strong. But if you aren't stacking dragons, and overall, if this is a fight that you aren't comfortable going for, just give the buff. If the other team doesn't have any dragons and they don't have jack shit and they are willing to commit 5 members to take one thing, just send your entire team to like the other side of the map, ravage the base, get vision, set up for picks, and make them regret ever committing so hard to such a deep point in the map. Because I feel like 20 minutes, realistically, at 20 minutes, you could have a tier 2 on side lanes taken. And usually the lane that has their tier 2 taken is the lane that the Otacon will spawn at because it's the one where it's had the most action. And 2 turrets being taken in a lane usually signifies that there was action in that lane. I would say that, I overall, this is all to say, I agree with Slayer, but if you are overcommitting for Ruinous for no reason, you're trolling. Because I seriously feel like I've seen so many teams overcommit for this buff and just lose because of it, and the whole game, which they spent 20 minutes building up perfectly, slammed down, just like that.
Quax, it's going to like I want to follow up on that perfectly because it's going to keep on happening. We've had years where teams were fighting for first and second Herald when it wasn't even that big. Like first was okay, second was post plays, and it wasn't good enough, and they were still killing themselves. So yeah, it's gonna keep on happening. We just have to see who does it better.
So we have the Dig Baron. Who are we going to coin for the ex-LTA team Otacon? Because I feel like every team has this thing.
You have to let them do it.
We have to wait and see.
I guess he wants us to predict.
You know what? I'm betting Shopify Otacon.
I'm betting.
It's 1,000% disguised, by the way. I'm just.
I'm betting Lion Otacon.
Oh wait, actually,
wait, hold on. Okay.
I'm betting Lion.
I don't know enough about our boy, about Adi.
Dude, I feel like Audi is going to try. Dude,
No, it's gonna happen, but not because of Audi. Like he secures objectives great, but the rest of the team is gonna fuck it up.
I feel like if it's not Lion, it might unironically be Cloud9 because of Blabber and how much he loves his neutral objectives. Let's
say the NACL one, guys.
We gotta evolve from Blabber's Crabbers to Blabber's Otacons. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well, but he moves up in the world. That's what's important here.
All right. That was 27 minutes. Let's get into LTA Promotions and talk a little bit about our boys.
20 more minutes on only feats of strength now? We did like 27 on Otacon.
Yeah, exactly.
Kidding.
We'll get over. Let's talk about our boys who are moving on up into the pro leagues here. So LTA Promotions this year, not a bad crop, I gotta say, given all of the mess that's going on around the league, although maybe that just says how far my standards have fallen from when we were a 10-team league. But we got Scary Jerry, Shaden, I'll count XU as well, and of course Surdy, all moving on up into Tier 1, spread amongst a couple of teams there. How do we feel about our boys? And any big predictions we want to make? Surdy was on the first episode of Pros, definitely showing a little bit of the ego there that I love to see out of him. And it's cool hearing him talk about how much confidence he has in this team. That's a little surprising to me, given some of the makeup of the team, but he makes me want to have confidence.
He does.
Yeah.
So for Surdy, I have gone on record saying that I think the whole, like, he basically made, like, the highlight of his, like when people started getting high on this guy was last year, right? And specifically in spring. But it's really important, I feel, to remember that Quad was also on that team, and everyone kind of acknowledges that Quad was the big boy in that roster. Obviously, Surdy was really good in top lane, but the moment Quad left and was replaced by Bradley, it almost looked like everyone else looked worse, including Surdy. And while Surdy was still a good top laner, like I certainly would have put him in top 3, I feel like people really overrated how well he performed comparatively to some other players, most namely like Zamudo, I think had a insane split. And then I think Philip also played really, really well. Like Surdy just kind of felt like he was slightly lower. So I do think there is a solid chance that Surdy has a little bit of growing pain in the first few weeks. Like I do not think we are going to see him immediately come out of the gate swinging, especially when who are Dignitas playing? We have the
Team Liquid.
They're playing Team Liquid. Yeah, so his first matchup is going to be against fucking Impact, which is probably the top laner you want to face the least in your first ever series. So he already has a tall task ahead of him.
Losers
going
bracket's
against
the thing.
Impact.
He's
Yes.
gone from my
gonna
boy's gone
bounce
from the
back.
gate. My God,
But-
he's gone from the gate guard of tier 2 to fighting the gate guard of tier 1 right off rip.
Yeah, but like my point still stands, and yeah, lower bracket is still a thing, of course, Gordo. But I do think it just kind of people are going to expect him to immediately come out of the gate and fucking beat the shit out of Impact. Not gonna happen, right? I don't care how good you think Surdy is. He doesn't have the experience, and I do not think he is going to beat Impact. At best, I think he stalemates it. Impact is really good at just straight up neutralizing a lane and being like, all right, let's shake hands and let's farm for 20 minutes, and then I'll be more useful than you after that. I do not see a world where Surdy actually gets like a solo kill on Impact and causes him to go like absolutely haywire, start sheballing him and cursing him out in Korean.
I'm gonna cop out for my my LTA North most successful pick because I do think, unfortunately, hey, we're all happy that guys like Surdy and Scary Jerry are up here, but I think we've put the fans put a little bit too high expectations on them. So I'm just gonna cop out and say XU is gonna be the best. The best one of the promotions.
I agree with you on that. Yes, absolutely.
Which might just be a cop out. I don't really care. It's partly because he also, I mean, this is probably not even a lukewarm take. He's got the best situation off a promotion, right? I mean, coming into the Disguise team. Well, okay, maybe not. But I think XU is a great talent. I also think XU is very marketable for the LTA. He's already been here. I think he's just going to be like the overall most successful promotion. I'm also just a big XU guy, so I'll just be biased and pick XU.
Yeah, I think I'm not quite as low on Surdy and Dignitas. I do think this org is cursed. I do think
that's the problem.
I do think Voodoo Curse is something that people need to factor into their sports analysis a little bit more. And I
as a Bears fan,
yeah, not just as a Bears fan, but yeah.
Oh, my bad, Chicago sports fan.
Not just as a Chicago sports fan. I've been here with the LCS from the beginning, man, and
that's true.
I've discovered long ago that you guys think that the LCS/LTA is a professional esports league where weekly matches are played in a format deemed most applicable to advertisers to try to generate some money from the viewers. But I know the truth, which is that the LTA is a prank being played on me, and that's a big difference. All right. Either way, that aside, the I kind of like the little roster they've assembled here, right? They got a pretty cool team. I like Rigby. He had a lot of success over on Evil Geniuses and as a coach over here. Plus, he's got Lyra coming in to help out.
Dude,
Even on the Rift for week 1, apparently. That I'm not quite as high on.
Look, I actually am really high on Shaden. Like, obviously, Lyra is going to be filling in for week 1, so we aren't going to really be talking about Shaden as much on this episode. I actually think he's going to do really well. Like, I could totally see Shaden being better than, like, I realistically, I think in his first split, his ceiling ideally should be better than either Contracts or be better than River.
XU.
I straight up think he's better than XU and Odie. If he plays like he did in NACL, I think his bar should be better than Contracts. And if you really want to be ambitious, maybe try to give either River or potentially UMT a run for their money, because although UMT is on a strong team, a lot of people have kind of come to the consensus that UMT at least has the weak side role. So if you're able to bully him around, then I do think that will speak volumes to your ability to actually do well in the LTA. But yeah, I think if Shaden just locks in, he should be better than Odie and XU.
Yeah, no,
ideally.
my biggest concern for this Dignitas team is Kaini.
Same.
Yeah,
Yep.
like it's I know everybody sees the Korean flag and they're like, oh, this guy's gonna be better than every player that doesn't have a Korean flag by his
Fake
name.
Korean
But
flag.
It's so fake.
It's a fake Korean flag, dog. I'm sorry.
It's a Korean flag with a little bit of green on the side.
Yeah, dude.
That's when you know that it's not the best one.
This guy's been playing in LATAM since 2022, guys. This guy hasn't played in LCK since 2021 spring. Like,
and it wasn't great. I can tell you that.
It was, and even then, it was very brief. It was very brief.
Yeah.
It's like, I just don't have the confidence given where he's been playing lately. I just don't.
Yep. That's why I think XQ is going to have a better time, though. Because I think XQ's team is going to be, first of all, I think probably going to have a much better time than Dignitas. And jungle pool is going to be much easier to fight against than the other pools when you take a look into the other teams. Because top lane, I think, gets undervalued, but the top lane pool, it's looking quite nice this time around. So he's going to have a difficult time, yeah.
I think top lane pool is the strongest of all the rules this year, in my opinion.
It could really be, like, when you look at some of the names, and not even only the names, like the performances from most of these players last year were quite good. Like, I think top lane has been good for LCS before, now the 10, and it's going to be difficult for Surdy to try and make the big jump of trying to overperform a couple of these top laners. Still think he can, but it's not going to be coming as soon as possible and do it. And XU, like I think Slayer was the one that said it before, like he does have the experience, but I also think he has a team that can play well enough around him, who has a great mid laner also to try and follow up on himself. Like your return to LTA to Latam is going to be with Avedage, one of the better mid laners that were remaining, so it's certainly going to make things easier for you. And then also the jungle pool is not going to be the strongest or the biggest difficulty for you either, so I think he can just try and excel. I think it all makes sense for XU to have the better time going into the Latam now.
Yeah, my biggest concern of all of these, though, like when we factor in all the new guys, it definitely is Scary Jerry. Like, obviously, I think that we kind of just talked about Surdy and we talked about XU, and we said the strength of their role is not necessarily well, in the case of Surdy, it's high, right? Because I did just say that top lane was the hardest pool, but I think Surdy has enough of a cushion with his team where he will be able to at least afford some growing pains without completely screwing them over. I think that Shaden will kind of have the same thing. XQ will have a similar position where, he's not necessarily a rookie, and he is also capable of beating some of the players on this list because jungle is a little bit weaker than top lane when you compare the two roles in terms of their strength. But bot lane does not have that luxury. Like, to me, this roster of Disguised, our biggest concern before we went on break, when it was rumored that it was going to be Castle, XU, Abe, and Huhi, we said, all right, this roster seems pretty good, but they don't have firepower, right? Like, they don't have a player that tells you, okay, these guys brought like a thermonuclear warhead to a gunfight, or they have something of an X factor on their team. Like, there were no X factors, is essentially what our consensus was. Scary Jerry was the X factor we were all hoping for. And unfortunately for him, I feel like he might be the only one they have, unless Castle gets like Aatrox or something like that.
Yeah, we need to see Scrim Castle.
True.
Yeah, like Scary Jerry and Disguise cannot afford for Scary Jerry to have growing pains. Like, if we are saying Surdy can afford to not come out of the gate swinging, I feel like Scary Jerry is going to have to come out of the gate swinging if this team wants to have success and not necessarily be a bottom tier team. In Winter, I'm not too worried about it because I do feel like Winter Split is a little bit Mickey Mouse. Don't tell anyone I told you that.
No,
but like,
don't be afraid.
if this continues to like the middle of spring, then I would get a little bit worried.
Yeah,
But
I
true.
feel that. I think it's almost I've heard such an opinion expressed on pros and the dive and stuff already that it's tough for Scary Jerry because it's tough to be a rookie AD coming into a team that that's going to be bad, and maybe they
Especially
will
against
be.
all these guys. I mean, look at
Well,
this
exactly. And maybe
roster.
they'll be bad. Maybe they'll be bad, and then whatever. Then these guys will all be right.
So,
I do think though,
yeah.
taking away the black and white analysis of rookie coming into good team good, rookie coming into bad team bad, which is legitimate analysis, right? It's true, probably about 75-ish% of the time, if not more.
Yep.
But if you remove that lens, I do actually think that Scary Jerry's in a pretty solid position as far as how
Oh
bad
yeah,
things could be for a rookie. I think having Huhi alongside him, I think that's a good pairing.
Agree.
Huhi's a really experienced veteran. Huhi also likes to play some batshit stuff in the bottom lane. Like I can see these guys busting out some Callista set lanes and stuff.
yeah.
Like I can definitely see that out of this duo. And having Mash as his coach, right? Having a coach that was an AD carry player. Definitely helps you out a little bit as well. So I think his situation's not the worst in the world. Maybe they're bad out of the gate, and in which case, oops, it might be a rough debut for old Scary Jerry. But I'm not fully out yet. I'm not fully out.
No, I'm not
pretty
out.
out on
He's also
Lion.
not going-
If anyone's curious, what team are Gordo? You supported Dignitas. You supported Disguise. What team are you out on? I'm out on Lion. Lion is the team.
Wow.
Yeah, no, like the good thing
Yeah.
for Scary Jerry is that there's 280 carries that I think are not better than him. So like that already, at the very least, it's not going to be an awful start
Who's
for
the
him.
other one? Who's the other one? I'm
It's
assuming you're talking about
Tomo.
Henna and B-Boy. Like those are the two I'm talking about.
You think
yeah,
he's better
no,
than B-Boy?
I am not as high as people are in B-Boy. Like
you
I
fucking
blame
hate
him.
B-Boy, bro. This is like every episode we talk about him. You want his
Like-
ass on the guillotine. Like
I will like yeah, I'm not a big fan of people. Like this reminds me of when people were bringing ADD. Kind of similar situation. And
no, fucking
I will
not
say he is
ADD.
better than ADD. I will say he is better than ADD, but I don't think he is I don't think he's the thing that you should be focusing on. Like he's a serviceable AD carry. I don't put him above that or below that. And I don't think Scary Jerry will do worse than B-Boy. Especially because in this team, like Shopify Rebellion is the perfect place to really show that B-Boy is not the shit. So I'm gonna be excited to
That's
see
the call.
Like I'm more on Scary Jerry than on B-Boy here,
Yeah.
like 100%.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just be the contrarian a bit, but I don't. I think it's at this point it's difficult for me to pick which rookie I think is in the worst spot, but I just don't think it's Scary Jerry. I think who he as a support again is like super important. I think that is very integral. I think in general, Disguised are already going to have two clear voices in their comms where they're not going to have as many sort of miscues, like early growing pains miscues. And yeah, I don't know. I think he's in a pretty primo situation that I think Scary Jerry's going to be fine. I'll eat a crow if it comes to it, but looking at some of these other teams that he could have gotten dropped into, like I could imagine 20 different worse scenarios than being on the new team on the block Disguised with clear veteran voices at support and
We've seen
not
worse.
The veteran part,
We've seen
but-
worse LCS teams than this.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
put it that
way
way.
worse.
Yeah.
Way
We've
worse
seen much
LCS
worse
teams than
LCS
this.
teams than this.
Yeah,
I'm looking
so-
at one. I'm looking at the Lion roster.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
yeah, there's
looking
not.
at every Immortals roster ever.
I mean, this is yeah.
Wait, no,
like-
they were 117-3 once.
True.
I
Not
remember
that generation
Wait,
Immortals.
wait, no, Quax is before. It's after that. Actually, I don't think he saw that.
No, I remember when Immortals was good, they dropped off the face of the earth, came back,
Okay.
and then just shit the bed so
Hey, look,
hard.
the Revenge Xerxes Insanity team
Dude,
was okay.
I will never forget. I forget what it
Raze
was.
and
Maybe it was
Destiny.
maybe it was Hotline League or maybe it was something else. But like they brought Revenge on as a guest after he left IMT, right? Like this was post IMT
Uh-huh.
Revenge. and he said something along the lines of like IMT would write like report cards for their players and like grade them. And Xerxes, after like 1 week, wanted to go home from that shit because it was
funny,
so.
dude. I loved
It was such
Report
a
Card
toxic
Gate, dude.
environment.
Report Card Gate was awesome.
Dude,
that's
honestly,
classic Immortals.
honestly, if Disguise don't do that, I think they're a better roster. Like, I don't care if they lose
or if you
every
do it, at
fucking
least do it
game.
for content. Like,
Yeah. Well, already, I don't
Nobody
know.
will
It
bring
did
that
just
back.
come out, but did you guys see the DSG like roster reveal, like their gaming
yeah, where they're
house
making water
The
soup.
gaming house, yeah, that was
They're
great.
making Amadage is making water soup. Castle said, "God, even Immortals didn't treat me this bad." That sent me
He's
to
playing Wild Rift in a room
Yeah,
by
that-
himself on a phone.
that sent me to the upper atmosphere. That shit was hilarious.
That's
So,
good.
if nothing else, I think DSG are going to be a really fun team to watch. They might not be the best. They might not be in the best situation. They might not have the best players. They might not even have the best budget. But they will be one of the best for content. That much I can assure you. When you've got
They
a
have the
content
best cards.
creator, when you've got a content creator running the whole show, pulling all the strings, you are bound to be a colorful organization. And honestly, if you're looking at the future of these guys' careers, I think being able to be known as colorful and flashy and fun will help them brand-wise in the long run to potentially further their career, even if this team flops.
And also, they have nothing to lose. Like, this is a team that,
Yeah.
like DSG will not be a guest anymore after what, this year I think it is. So,
Well,
like,
they'll fight.
They could
for
lose it.
relegation.
they could fight or lose it, but like, unless they get relegated, which quote unquote could happen or not, but as long as this roster does fine enough, like, these players are going to be fine. I think so. So the motivation to try and stay up also, I think, will play a factor into how they play, and I think this could be an interesting roster to just watch out for whatever they are able to do, both now and in the long run. And speaking of other content creators, like, there is another team with content creators that could also excel at that. I just hope they actually do things.
Yeah. But I mean, Lion, I feel we aren't super high. I mean, the big question to me is, can Lion beat Luminosity? S tier transition. Let's talk about NACL.
Well,
'cause I kinda-
Lion doesn't compete in relegation, so Lion's fine.
No, they don't.
they're
But
screwed,
could,
sadly.
Let's talk about Luminosity, though.
Would Lion lose to Luminosity?
Let's
Yeah, probably.
see.
I don't know.
Is my beard orange? What? I mean, like, what are we talking about here?
All right,
Yeah, I mean-
so let's
Do we remember what this Luminosity team? I guess we'll.
so let's get into our confirmed NACL teams. So we have Blue Otter running it back. I'm not even going to get into that many details about them. We got
Which is so
Luminosity,
cool.
who's running who's acquired AoE's spot. They are running Fake God Tomio, Insanity Tactical Zazel. And then Dragonsteel has announced as well. They're running Zamudo, Yuji/Shimmer. I assume Yuji will be the starter there. Spyrax or Toasty Alex. That maybe is a little bit more up in the air, but probably Spyrax.
Yeah.
Sejed and Zyko will be their team.
Ooh, Sajed, Dragonsteel.
And then there's rumor rosters all over the place, obviously. Which
Yeah.
we
Let's
might
start with the
touch on a little
confirms.
bit. But yeah, let's start with the confirmed.
Yeah, confirmed is fine.
So first of all, I think Slayer and I had the opportunity to go to the NACL summer finals last summer, right after the LCS finals, and wasn't particularly close, right? As we all know and remember, Fear kind of got their shit ran in like record time. So I do think, like, I am predicting that the two confirmed rosters we have, which is Luminosity and Dragonsteel, are going to be our finalists. Like, these are by far going to be the two best teams. Obviously, we have 3 promotion teams open, and there is the gigantic elephant in the room, which is Nightmare. We'll get to that later. But I do legitimately think that Dragonsteel and Luminosity are going to be the teams we'll see in finals. So I'm just hoping these guys battle it out. Like, this to me is an opportunity for potentially a rivalry. Like, Dragonsteel seems like they're not going anywhere. Luminosity just got here, so unless they pull an energy, I would hope they're not going anywhere. So this could be like a cool opportunity to have like a rivalry in NACL, which is something I've said I think the scene really needs for a long time if you want to grow some interest, right?
Yeah. I could see that take. I have one other team. Once we start talking about more rumored rosters, I'd be interested in discussing this. But I
think I already know what you're gonna say.
maybe. But I'm excited. I do think these two teams come in like on paper as two of the strongest teams. I am a little curious to see like I think the top lane ecosystem is very different than it was when Fake God left it. Fake God was very, very, he was the best pretty solidly, I would say. It was him and Surdy, right, when he left. I didn't get to call you out on this when you brought up Surdy earlier, but I've thought Surdy was good since he carried Evil Geniuses to an NACL final. So
we do need to give Gordo the flowers there. He did.
I'm not just on him because
before Quax was even here.
I'm on him.
Yeah,
I was a Surdy fan when
yeah.
Quad was still Solka. Okay.
Oh my god.
But no, but it's a different top lane landscape than it was when Fake God left it, right? I think Crimson's here now, Denethor's here now. I think both of them could have big year twos.
Better Quacker now,
assuming that they're still in. I think Quacker's better. I think Zamudo is way better. I think that's a very interesting matchup. Yeah, Zamudo's way better. I think that'll be interesting as well. Again, we made some reference to Nightmare. If we see Dokla come on in here, I think that'll be an interesting layer to this as well. Quax and I got to watch some Core JJ scrims earlier this offseason, and Dokla was giving Quacker the hands, dude. He was crushing Quacker.
Yeah, that was rough.
Dokla still's got it, at least to some degree. He's at least he did a couple months ago. I saw there's some interesting layers to be had here. I don't know where Jenkins is. We're not hearing anything about Jenkins. I hope he ends up in here somewhere, though.
Not Bobby Jenkins.
Yeah, I hope Jenkins ends up in here somewhere because he had a really good last year, and it would be a shame for him to just disappear afterwards. But so I'm interested in seeing how dominant Fake God is. Like, it's kind of a different jungle landscape than when Tomio was last year too.
Yeah.
So it's like you got a few players in here. I think Insanity is probably the one player where this isn't the case. I think Insanity is going to roll up and probably be the best mid laner in this league.
Slap everybody.
Yeah, Insanity's going to kind of slap everybody. I'm not worried about that. But for guys like Fake God and Tomio, like the landscape has changed so much. Like I was only thinking of Fake God when I started this point, but now I'm looking at the jungle pool and it's like double Lucian for Tomio, right? Like Tomio, in the time he's been gone, right? Like Yuji's obviously still here and is better than ever, but like we've had the emergence of guys like Kryra and Music. Like these guys are way better, I think, than the competition really super was when Tomio was here last. So I'm very interested in if they'll be as dominant as like we assume they will be.
And I feel like this might be a little bit disrespectful to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I feel like Luminosity is basically gatekeeper the team. Like, if you are not better than Fake God, you should not be in the LTA. If you are not better than Tomio, shouldn't be in the LTA. If you're not better than Tactical, you shouldn't be in the LTA. Zazel has gone up and down, and if you're not better than him, I feel like you shouldn't go into the LTA. So this, to me, will be kind of a... This, to me, if Dragon Steel can actually beat them out here, like, obviously, like you said,
I'll kind of be bummed if they're the best. Yeah, like,
I will be too. Because I legitimately think that if Dragon Steel beat out Luminosity, you could make a case for like 4, potentially all of these players being good enough to go to tier 1 at some point, right? Like, I especially think it'll be the case with like Yuji. Like, if Yuji ends up gapping Tomio, we were supposed to have him in LTA this year, kind of. Like, a lot of people were thinking we would. He should be in next year. So I am kind of hoping that Dragons still run it back and are able to dominate NACL like they were last year, because to me, I think it would signify that these guys are ready to take that next step. And for players like Yuji and Zyko, that is... It is severely late for them to make that jump, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I hope it's not only Dragon Steel. I hope the other teams also are above Luminosity, because I want more players to be better than them and make the jump, but like I'm not sure if it's gonna happen.
But realistically,
realistically, probably Dragon Seal. I will say though, I think there's a couple of players here and there that this year are going to make the jump to not only being like on the cost, like they can make a serious argument going forward. Like there's players that I'm expecting to this year be their push year, the year that they make the big jump. And I'm not sure if I can say their names because it's not like I'm saying their teams. Like I'm expecting Ryra to make this his year. I'm expecting Toasty to make this his year. I actually think Music will have his year here as well. And also, I think Samikin will make noise this year. I think those 4 players are the 4 I'm looking the most to really make the big jump here.
Yep. I think
So
I
Oh, wait. Actually, yeah, Sajet.
I'm looking at Zyko. Zyko, I believe in you, buddy. Like,
I would love this to be a big Zyko domination year.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Slayer.
So I'm gonna do the 80 carry rant for a second here. I'm interested to see. I'm not gonna immediately be like, guys, tactical. Let's throw the memes back out. This guy's gonna grief Luminosity the entire time. It's not the LCS, all right. So the skill floor has dropped, all right. So we might still get those meme tactical flashes, but they're not gonna ruin games. And
I'll take it a step further. We're gonna get some crazy tactical highlights. Like he's gonna
actually.
What I will say though,
big moves.
Yeah. So I'm not fully out on I'm not fully memed out on tactical. I think he's gonna have some big plays. However, if names that that we're hearing, expecting to be a part of the NACL, I am officially gonna stamp this as the year where we watch many young 80 carry players rise to the occasion. All right.
You think so?
Sujette is the obvious one that I pick out there. Levitate with another year in the same system with Thin Uncle Phil again, Blue Otter. I think he's just going to get a lot better. I think he can make a jump. I think you throw out names like Mobility. Mobility looked disgusting in the Sao.gg combine. He's really been leveling up. Array's been floating around,
Meech on
Shogo's
Nightmare.
somewhere. Yeah, right. Meech on Nightmare. And then Shogo's somewhere around here. Hopefully, Aaron's somewhere around here.
So let's have that Shogo. Finish your point. Actually, I'm sorry.
Oh, I mean, the last thing I was going to say is last one I would say is Aaron. Right, Aaron's also out there. I think we're going to see one of the most competitive 80 carry calendar years in Tier 2 history, and I could not be more excited for it because there are so many fun names.
Yeah. Don't discount Sushi. I feel like that is another name
that is another one.
I talked about.
I think it's a year early for Sushi to make this big of a jump, but I'm not saying Sushi
I can
can't.
see Sushi in summer.
I could see Sushi
in
summer for sure.
1 year, it's long. I think
it
2
is.
OQs fighting for your chance if he gets to an ECL. It probably could be him.
It depends on who he's with, right? And obviously we have the rumored roster with what he's with.
We have the announced roster, don't we?
Yeah, actually, it's announced.
Yeah, we actually do. I just want to get into the rumored stuff because goes crazy.
So we'll get into OQs in a moment. I do think so. We got to kind of tread lightly here when we talk about NACL rumors because there's stuff that's pretty publicly floating around, like Quest's free agent roster or roster rumors and free agent database. Was on the front page of Reddit and stuff. So
yes, you can't blame us. You can't
blame us for stuff that's on Quest stock. I do think we need to be a little disciplined here with what we choose to talk about. Right? We can talk about the big narratives, but I think if we focus really hard on one silly little thing that maybe you could very easily skim past, then it may become a little obvious to people externally that we're
Do we mess up a contract for a player for this or what?
But
I don't want to ever be that.
So here's the thing. I think we can talk about Supernova Ole Miss. I think we can talk about that.
Okay.
I think we can.
Yeah. So the rumor is that Supernova will be fielding Ole Miss's roster with Shochi and Kiel rather than Icelandic and Asila probably. Is what it's sounding like.
I think it's still going to be Asila, to be honest.
You think it's still going to be Asila?
I think Shochi will be on Respawn Esports.
Interesting.
Yeah, the thing is that Shochi
he did get announced on Respawn Esports,
right?
but that was before he got picked up by Ole Miss, so could be.
So I actually have a quick question mark here because I'm just not sure what it means, and I'm not sure if I can say it, but I see that there like is Stray and Shogo going to be a problem there with two because they are technically two like
Not if they're playing for their
No.
collegiate team, which I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
this
the
is like
collegiate-
a.
okay.
I think the
the
idea
collegiate
is this is a
loophole.
Dragon Steel
Collegiate
Maryville.
Yeah,
baby.
that was something I
pairing.
wanted to confirm. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe this is like a Dragon Steel Maryville kind of situation. I think
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
Supernova Ole Miss is going to
Okay.
have that same kind of
And,
relationship.
I gotta say, I really hope this doesn't fall through, and I really hope this actually happens because we
This would be
have
cool.
wanted to see Ole Miss in NACL for a long ass time. I want to see Shogo in this environment because this is the player that I'm the highest on.
He's really
If they
good.
end up, if they end up getting here, I would say he is on the same. Basically, for those of you who want to know where to gauge this guy, I would say he is kind of like the music of the 80 carries, where you can always count on this guy to just bitch slap anyone that he's against. Even if they lose the game, he'll always one up his opponent at least once. So I think Shogo totally has the ability to make the NACL his playground, assuming that Ole Miss is able to, merge well with Supernova and all of the staff come to a consensus on coaching and the environment is roughly the same.
I'll take it a step further here, Quax.
Go
I
ahead. I
will
love it.
wholeheartedly say this. If this Ole Miss Supernova thing is real, Shogo will be the most hyped player to ever be brought into the NACL in its history.
History.
In the NACL's history. Not,
Okay,
do not
actually,
count
I
Okay,
can
so
academy
you
see
don't,
that.
so you don't get like
Do not count
JoJo
academy
Kyun.
players.
Yeah.
So
No,
you think
no, no.
Shogo is going to
Yeah.
be more hyped than Quad?
Yeah,
Okay,
actually, I
well,
can see that.
Yeah,
No,
I
because
can
yeah,
see
I
it.
can
I
see
can
that
see it.
because Quad was coming from Academy, from LCK Academy, not really like
We don't have a
shining
lot of
or
LCK
anything.
Academy players, though, and after one game, people were like, okay, this guy's the shit.
Yeah, but
Moving
that
on.
was after a game. Like Shogo is pre-game. Like
Fair
his
enough.
hype is,
yeah,
is
that's
coming
what I'm
up
saying.
of
Like,
everything
Okay, the
before we
hype,
can
the
see
hype.
this
him.
has been
Sure.
building for like a
Yeah.
year plus.
This
almost
is like
at
a-
this point. Or-
okay, fine, sure.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
that's the other
why.
thing is like this team,
especially in our circles,
this
right?
like
where we,
if it's this
yeah.
team, like if it's and I'm saying, Asila, I love you, brother, and I know you listen to the show. If it's Shochi, and Shochi's on form,
This team is disgusting.
this team could contest at the top.
I think this team
Yeah.
could contest top three. I think this team could contest.
I wouldn't
think
say
this
top
team-
If it's
I can
Shochi
say
and
they
he's if it's
contest
like
top three.
Cincinnati Fear, Shochi,
I think
with
they
Keel and
contend
then
for third.
Stray, Shogo, and
Yeah,
Rhino.
third. I think it's a
I
perfect
agree.
angle. Third is where I see them.
I disagree. I think this team. So, look, I love Shochi and I love Shogo and Rhino, but I really am not sold on I regardless of if it's Icelandic or Keel, I can't see them making a dent in
It'll be
most of
Keel,
these
dog.
players.
It'll be Keel, dog. And
It's
again,
more
I'm
than
sorry,
likely
Icelandic
Keel.
too, but it's fucking Keel, dog.
But like,
Keel's
dude,
Yeah.
a Keel is not going to be able to deal with most of these junglers. Like, this is an insane
I
pool.
think you are.
You missed too
way
much of the
over-
wild card era,
I
brother.
think you're underselling Keel here a little bit, brother.
I think.
But hey, run with it.
I am not super high on Keel. I also think that Stray. I think Stray, for what the team needs him to be, is really good. But I think he's in a similar situation as Denethor, where Denethor in Tier 3 is able to run everybody. Everyone would talk about this guy on Winthrop because he was able to just lane gap the shit out of people. But the moment he stepped into Tier 2, we found out very quickly that Winthrop's usual style of play that they cultivated in Tier 3 did not work in Tier 2, particularly around the top side. And I think we're going to have the same lesson here with Stray.
I
I
get
think
that to a
it's- I can
degree,
get
but
that,
I mean,
yeah.
the guy we were watching Stray, the guys we were watching Stray run in Tier 3 just a couple months ago were Crimson and Zamudo. He had such good series against them to round out his time in ACL. I am
did.
really moving up on Stray after this last ACL.
Look, I hope this team does well. I'm not saying I don't want them to be
sure.
top 3 because I realistically actually do want this team to be top 4 because I think all of these players have a future in the space that's higher than where they're currently at, which is Tier 3 because this isn't confirmed. But I do think saying that they will be that good in their first split is a little bit hard to get around. I think with time, they might be able to. But as it stands, I think when you're dealing with teams like Luminosity and Dragonsteel and potentially Blue Otter, who just seem to get scarier every split, you might be a little out of your depth.
I'm going to cop out and say, I was using the ceiling floor thing. The ceiling is third, I think, if the roster plays out.
That's fair. Okay, sure.
Which is the classic cop out to saying a hot take, but whatever.
I think I will end up, if this roster happens, I think I will end up power ranking them pretty high.
Okay, fair enough.
When it comes time to our episode.
I think it's a roster that can possibly go there.
Get this show on the road, please, so I can, because I am already excited. These are just rumors. Okay, what other rumors are we able to talk about? Because there's another big one.
You can give it a shot if you want. This is an NACL rumor.
Yeah, it's fine if you want to go for it.
I don't know if I should
give it a shot, and we'll cut it if we can't.
True.
We'll cut it if we feel like
we'll
it's not
speak
good.
with the people involved and ask them if
so
it's actually.
we're not doing that.
This is not like a secret. Again, this is on Quest Sheet.
It's on the Quest Sheet, which is on Reddit. You all can find it. It's not us releasing information.
It's not us. It's Quest.
Yeah. And it's that Polestar are going to be in the
NACL.
NACL.
We can talk about that.
Yes, it's going to be that Polestar will be in the NACL for the next split, or for the next year at least. They bought out Cincinnati Fear, rest in peace, spot, and are fielding their own roster. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited about this.
I like
high on it.
I like some parts of it, and I despise other parts of it.
So I'm high on it. I don't despise. Yeah, despise is probably big. Like I'm high on 4 of the 5 parts. Probably because I think that if they have one,
the rosters
that
changed so much that I don't even feel confident talking about the roster. But I like the org.
True.
I'm happy to have the org.
I love the org. This is so cool that Polestar.
Yeah,
agreed.
That's
it's good that they are here.
Like
shout out Jubes for getting this going.
Yeah,
I mean,
shout out Jubes for buying me Korean barbecue when I went over to LA.
Got me a margarita. Thanks.
Yeah,
you heard it here, bribing casters.
Double margarita.
Dude. I mean, I need to go to LA now and start. I didn't realize you guys were getting free kickbacks. This is ridiculous.
See, this is what happens when you go to those events.
Dog. Oh my
MSI,
God.
Vancouver is not even that far of a flight from Chicago.
It's not, but it's
far.
in Canada, man.
What's wrong with?
What the fuck is wrong with Canada?
That's like one of the best parts of Canada too.
Yo, let's get
Vancouver?
Ferris in here to roast you for that.
Oh, don't get Toronto. Don't get Toronto, man.
Didn't they say that it was going to become like the 51st state or something like that?
Yeah, true. We'll wait for that.
No.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So
that's a can of worms.
Okay, so changing the subject because I'm gonna. This is like that was like a Dark Souls like path where you could either choose like Gilgamesh, the destroyer and consumer of reality, or the goats to the left and just hang out with them. So I'm gonna go that way, which is again talking about how Polestar. I'm really excited for them to just straight up enter the NACL, regardless of what roster they have. You know, there's rumors, obviously, of what they have. They've been working at it for a really long time. Like, this is an org that has consistently punched above their weight class, where people would place them, and have consistently gotten big names to help them put up just as big results. And I feel like they have been the organization right next to Ole Miss, basically, in 2024, that were on the precipice of getting into NACL, but just barely missed out. So I'm happy to see them here. And yeah, I mean, all the best to them. Overall, with what I'm hearing, I actually think this roster will do pretty decent. I don't think they're going to do better than like the Ole Miss Supernova team, but I could see these guys at least avoiding like relegation tier for sure.
So actually, like looking at them, I think this is a roster that is not a first split NACL team. I think they are a second split NACL team. Like they are going to really show up in the second split. I think, well, depending on if the rumor roster does come through, but I feel like their parts are really nice, and they just need, if it's the rumor roster, they just need one more part to fit in, and I think this roster can climb even higher. But they are going to just play about like middle ground in the NACL, take some wins off of one of the more shaky top tier rosters, not get relegated or anything like that, unless there's no more relegation, but not get relegated. And then second split NACL is where I think we will see them shine, because their players are really good quality players, depending on if the rumors are true. And I think they are going to be punching really high when that second split comes.
I am with you, except one position on this list. I'm disappointed if the player I think is going to start in a certain role starts over some of the other players that we might talk about in OQs.
Yeah.
But I can't say anything more.
Yeah,
I'll
we'll
just
leave the
revisit
roster
this.
for now, just because everything's so up in question, and I believe some of us have some more insider info that's going to make this
Sure.
conversation tough. So we'll let's move on a
For
little
another
bit.
day.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
move on a little bit. TDS, I hope you're still with us.
I'm here. My cam is not.
That's
I'll
okay.
fix
That's
it.
okay. You can figure that out.
So
Let's talk about OQ teams. And hang on, wait. Let me timestamp this really quick.
this is going to be a short section because everything we said about rumors
Oh boy,
for
yeah.
It's
NACL
magnified.
Well,
is
so here's what we got.
magnified, is turned up to 11.
Here's
for
what we got,
OQs.
right? Let's
We
start with
don't
this.
even know when fucking OQs are starting, ladies and
true.
gentlemen.
Saying the word OQs at
On
all
January
is a
22nd,
rumor.
by the way, just so we're on the same page. January 22nd, we don't know when OQs are starting.
January
There's
22nd.
no
we
way
don't.
last year.
Look-
when did we know? Like, we had to have known way earlier than this,
We
right?
knew by
We
now.
knew we knew by the second week of January 100%.
We didn't know how well we had it with Rally Cry, how good we had it with Rally Cry.
God, I can't believe that's a statement we're saying out loud right now.
Dude,
We
it's
miss
so
Rally Cry.
I'm so excited to shit talk Rally Cry on public channels now. I
But
just
now we
have to
can't.
do it. Oh,
It was better
All right,
before.
so
nobody
let's get
ping
to
me
the-
on weekends, guys.
Let's just talk quickly about the 5
rosters?
confirmed OQ rosters that we have, because we're not really going to be able to say shit about the other ones. So number 1 is Nightmare, which everyone is favoring to blow through this entire thing so fast that you're not even going to be able really be able to see them play or get a gauge for how good they truly are. And that is Dokla, Kenvi, Bradley, Meech, and Breezy. So quickly, what do we think about these guys? Obviously, in the context of OQs, I think we already know what the consensus is, but just a quick little
Promotion.
The quick hit thing I'll take, because I don't want to take the obvious points. I'm just gonna steal this. So happy for the 180 Breezy's career is about to do here. Breezy was constantly talked about it. I was like, man, Breezy's good, man. His stats back it up. Breezy's kind of sick. His team is just dog water around him most of the time, or like they never perform well. Well, Breezy, I mean, this is your best shot to back up.
Yeah,
what
Breezy,
people have
if
been
you don't
tapping for
perform here, then you got no.
He's
Honestly,
also, like-
if any of them underperform here, they have no excuse. Like,
It's also
true.
this is the Breezy
Yeah.
Meech reunion too. These guys played together
Yeah.
on CLG Academy. Yeah, they were really great
just
together
happy.
there.
Very happy for Breezy.
Yeah, and then what a squad around them. I'm pumped.
Just
for
in
these
case
guys.
for the OQ viewers, by the way, this is actually Mitch, not Mitchell. This is Mitch. Just
Yeah.
in case.
Like 100
Just
former
I
for
hundred
remember I
thieves.
For
fucked
the
that up on
actual
broadcast
OQ
and wanted
player
to die.
watchers.
Yeah.
Was that a
I-
salt
I-
mine broadcast? I feel like
I
that.
think I might have been a Salt Line broadcast. So okay, so Nightmare is OQ bound, or not OQ
Should
bound.
be.
Nightmare is
NACL
the
bound.
heir to the purple skeleton team throne, and they will.
Yep.
Yeah,
Opinions
they're
on their
making it.
actual
Avenged.
logo. I think it looks nice.
I think it looks
Avenge
nice.
fear.
Not looking bad, so
Honestly,
yeah.
Honestly, I feel like their fear-esque their fear-esque aura, I think, is also starting to manifest, because I just feel like this team, everyone's gonna know that they are gonna mean business the moment they hit the rift. The other team, though, that a lot of people are talking about and saying, "Oh my God, these guys might be, ready for NACL," is Respawned, right? Respawned is the other one that everyone is saying is super up there. So obviously it's been confirmed on social media, but there have been a few difficulties. So this might not be the official roster at the end of the day. So right now, confirmed by the team, it's Lawrence, Chad, Shochi, Sushi, and Mixture. And this, to me, I've said this since before I knew what AD and AP were, and I was 8 years old playing this game. If you want to make a good roster, you have to have a mix of rookie talent and
Oh, here we
veterans
go.
in it. And this is exactly what they have.
The amount of times I've said that about an org's roster and OQs, there's like 5 different orgs I've said that about in the past. Yeah, I mean, you're right though. You're not wrong.
But I mean, it's a sentiment I'm gonna echo until I'm on my deathbed, because it feels like this is
on
just
your deathbed.
yeah, it'll live on in my
course.
ghost. It feels like this is just always kind of how teams are put together to promote, right? Like I really like I feel like Lawrence and Chad in particular were really smart choices, because the biggest commodity these guys bring to the table, their best trait, their best attribute as players, to me, is how consistent they are. Right? Like they will always be useful in any setting. These guys are like Swiss Army knives in their role. You can always count on them to be at the right place at the right time, be what you need them to be. And then you've got X factors like Sushi and Mixture, which I'm really excited to see with that combination in mind up at the top side.
Yeah, I'm very curious if this is like Blue Otter Lawrence or Aporia Lawrence, like 2024 Lawrence, or if he kind of looks a little bit more like he has historically. He's always been a solid tier 3 top laner. I don't think it was until 2024 that I felt like he really made the next step forward and was like, oh, this guy plays everything. He's like he was a real complete player, I think, when he qualified with Blue Otter. But probably not, as flashy and lane dominant as some guys, like you're not with all the flashy picks and big outplays like your Dragoons and stuff, and maybe not not with any super unique like standout trait, but just solid all around.
Yeah.
And that was what really impressed me when he was on Blue. I hope that we see that version of Lawrence a little bit more, and that he's just, he's got his matchups rock solid, and you just know he's going to be ahead or even every single game. That'd be a great help to Chad, too, who, likes to play a little bit more aggressive of a jungle style, likes to be able to get on his Graves and on his Kindred and stuff when he gets the opportunity. I think that would be great for him as well. The loss of Shochi would hurt this team a lot. And suppose that's the rumor, right? Is that they're going to lose Shochi and that he will go to Olmus Supernova.
Olmus Supernova.
We lost Gordo's mic.
You lost my mic?
Oh no, you're back.
Okay, I think you might have had my mic the whole time, and I think it might have just messed up Discord.
All right, we're good.
But yeah, so it's gonna be tough for this team's gonna struggle without Shochi. If they lose Shochi. It'll be a tough ask for them to replace him. I mean, maybe Young decides he wants to take this esports thing seriously again. Maybe
every chance you get,
maybe you get like a Sudsy or somebody. Sudsy's the classic guy for teams like this. You could go for something like that. So I'm not going to say they're like totally sunk if they lose Shochi. It will be a big cost though. Shochi's
I would say if they lose Shochi, this team goes from like 75% sure they go to NACL to probably like 33%. I don't know. I just feel like Shochi is super valuable. Like a good mid laner is so valuable to have these days, because the consensus in North America is that it's our weakest role, at least in terms of like homegrown talent. So losing a player like Shochi, I think, would really hurt their chances. That being said, kind of moving on, I guess another team
Tempest Gaming, baby.
Yeah,
Tempest.
I think Tempest and Respawn are very intriguingly on similar level for me. I guess I'll read the roster. Hoarder topside, Kizdo jungle, Darkwings mid, Aaron 80 carry. That's the slew combo for any of y'all wondering. And then Manui role swapping to support, which I am weirdly high on based off his champion pool and playstyle. So yeah, Tempest. I want to give a quick shout out to Tempest. They were the org that gave me my first ever OQ cast back in freaking 2022.
Good old days.
So it's cool to see them back. They said they went to Europe for a year or something, or like tried to do Europe for a year, and now they're back. So that's cool. And came with a bang, because this roster
bangs.
Yeah.
Yep, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm really high on I mean, obviously, I'm really high on these guys because they were the only ones that I kept for our little the Salt Mine, Salty Run Back kind of combo episode that we did where we had to form our own rosters. I was in charge of Winthrop, as you all know, and the players I kept for that roster were Dark Wings and Aaron. So I'm glad to see that they are still together, still in a position where they can promote, because I think they are certainly two players that deserve to be in the NACL. And the same goes for the rest of them, right? Like, I think Kisno should be in NACL. I'm really interested to see Hoarder if they end up promoting, because a lot of people have been saying Hoarder is like right there. He is right on the line.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see once he crosses that line, how the atmosphere will feel for him. And same goes for Manui, right? Obviously, the lane swap, I think, is the biggest X factor that this team has going into the next, season split, whatever you want to call it. So depending on how he kind of functions around with Aaron in the bot lane, I could totally see him doing decently well if they get to the NACL.
Yeah,
Also,
I would love to see.
Quax,
Oh, go ahead, TDS.
I was just going to make a quick. You weren't that far away with Bo. They do have Boke or Buck.
It's the
Bok.
coach.
Not that far away from Bo.
Yeah, I don't know Bok unless that's like
I
some kind of
remember-
abbreviation.
Me and
Yeah.
Bok.
Who is
There's a little,
is that like an
wicked
abbreviation? Is
reference
this
for
somebody I
y'all.
should know? Am I stupid?
Maybe
might be
we
dumb.
should know them, and we actually.
United States. Oh, he coached Supernova Dark Matter, I guess, with Cubby. 'Cause I thought that was
Okay.
Cubby.
Yes,
who
yeah,
was working
yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
And then he was
okay,
in
that makes
EMEA
sense.
before that. Okay, cool. So he's like a relatively newish guy. Maybe they picked him up while they were in Europe.
Yep.
Cool. It will be interesting to see. Hoarder's a player that I would be very interested to see if he gets like a really good established coach or a really good top lane focused coach. He reminds me a lot of where like Zamudo was like a year ago, as I think he's very mechanically good and he has these flashes, but he's always up too far, man. He's always getting picked. It feels like he's always giving up leads in places he shouldn't, playing stuff too aggressively. If he can just rein that in a little bit, I think it'll be crazy. I'm very high on Kisno. This dude just crushed Korean solo queue, by the way, when he did his little trip.
Yes.
He did that trip with Shochi
The
and
temp.
who else went? Somebody else went.
I think Toasty was there as well.
Toasty, yeah. And all of
he's
them got
just someone,
Challenger
yeah.
and did well, but Kisno really slammed it up there. Yeah, I think the rest of the squad is good. I agree. I'm high on the Manui role swap. I think I've said this before, but it remains true. I'm high on any pro player swapping to support from a different role. I think I've seen it enough times
Every
now.
role?
I just feel like I feel like 90% of
Every
the time
role
it
support
succeeds.
works.
What was the
Yeah.
last time it failed? When was the last time somebody role swapped to support and didn't do well? Like Prismal?
Was,
And even then he didn't do that bad?
Prisma.
Like
That's
Prismal,
the one
and
I
even
was-
then he
I
didn't do
thought-
that
I
bad?
thought- I thought High's role swap to support was pretty bad. for
Okay,
the
that's like
LTS
10 years
standard.
ago, brother.
Technically, he
You
did
asked
qualify
for
to
one.
I know,
Worlds.
but
No,
I think
but
this
he
is an
did
argument in my
qualify to
favor.
Worlds from support.
But didn't he
oh, wait,
swap
no,
back
actually.
once they? Didn't he swap back though before
Yes.
they qualified for Worlds?
He
I think
swapped-
he swapped
Wait,
back.
no, but he qualified. Now I'm remembering wrong. He qualified to Worlds playing jungle.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did
I
not
think
qualify
he
for
was-
Worlds playing support, but he did go back to
Yeah,
mid
no.
after that. He played mid on like
Yeah.
Gen 1 FlyQuest. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So no, yeah. What I think is intriguing, I'm just gonna keep drawing the parallels between these rosters because like there's some serious parallels. Like Hoarder and Lawrence, both two top laners were at points you're like, oh, maybe they're finally NACL ready, but they still kind of make mistakes. You wonder what they look like when they're in form, and when they're in form, you feel like they're good enough. Kisno and Chad, both have been. Kisno's been the NACL, right? Am I blanking?
Yeah, he was there with
Yeah.
Lit.
So, Lit, right? That's what I thought. So both spent short time in NACL. Both play aggressive-oriented jungle, I would say.
Mhm.
And then AD Carry, I think, is also a lot of parallels because Sushi and Aaron are two, of the two people that I put in that, youth rising, big flashes in OQs and collegiate moments. So there's a lot of parallels between these two teams. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays
It's
out.
close. Yeah.
I think that's
Assuming that they actually get to play against each other, watch these guys like dodge each other or something like that. That would be
good happen.
really.
Well, hopefully if they're
Everyone get
dodging each
eliminated.
other, it's because they're both qualifying for NACL, and then we'll get to
Hopefully.
We'll get to see
Yeah.
them play there.
I'd
but
be
other
shocked
than-
if they don't play each other.
Other than that, the only other rosters that we have confirmed is Chimake, which is
Yeah, we can talk
Cozy
about
City.
Chimake. I think Chimake's kind of like
Is
an
that how you
outsider
pronounce
looking
it?
in.
Chimake.
Chimake. It's like
It's not a
chicken and
bad
beer,
roster.
right? It means like something like that.
Chimek.
Chimek? I don't know. I
Chimek.
guess
It's like
we'll
a
get clarified on
Korean,
that.
like it's a Korean. It's a
Boot
it's
camp.
pairing of fried chicken and beer served in many South Korean restaurants.
Interesting.
And then their logo is
That's
like
so
a chicken
funny.
holding a beer.
So
Okay, that's a good logo.
it's fried chicken and beer. My God, has Korea never been more
Dude, I've
attached to
been
the
saying
American
this for
populace
years,
than
dude.
this
South
very
Korea
moment?
lapped the United States on junk food sometime in the last decade or two, and
I always
just nobody
forget how,
knows. Like you could get a corn dog that's half corn dog, half mozzarella stick in South Korea.
Yeah,
Like,
I always
there's-
forget how
you can't do that here.
assimilated the
Actually.
two cultures have become.
Yeah, like they've crushed us, dude. Their fried
Thanks,
chicken's
Korean War.
dope. It's I don't know what to tell you, man. They quietly beat us out on junk food a while ago, and just
Yeah, I need more Korean food
the
like
United
that over
States
here. I've
hasn't
heard
caught
that
up
it's
yet,
great.
but they'll figure it out.
just-
They're starting
I
to
just
realize it.
I just love how if you like Americanized rename this team, it would just be KFC Beers and Boys. Like that's the American name for this team. But in Korea, it's like way
Hooters and
cooler,
Brews.
man.
I mean,
Hooters and Brewers. That's pretty good too. Oh man.
the most. I don't have a lot to say about this team. Curiously
We
enough,
haven't
say the
even said the
roster? I
roster
was
yet.
the
have we?
roster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the roster
All that
is
we have is a roster.
is Cozy, City Witty, Ariendel, Inori, and Kim Down.
Inori B,
Oh,
not
I-
Inori the jungler.
Inori
Yep.
B. I'm so sorry. I don't have a lot to say about this roster, to be honest with you. Like, I think they'll do well, but I feel like they fall just short of being able to be on that qualifier team.
Agree. Just barely though.
Yeah.
The most I have to say is that I recently discovered Kazakh's player here, right?
No.
And
course.
one of the best Kazakh's players in all of North America is a dude named Kaido. And
Oh,
I watch his VODs, I watch YouTube, I watch his streams all the time, and he recently was doing something in Korea. I recently find out, as do a lot of other people, that City Witty, who I have previously kind of memed on,
Quite a lot.
is the same
Is your
motherfucker as
Is your
Kaido.
goat.
It's his alter ego. And I had like an actual moment to myself. I was like, "Holy fucking shit!" So, what mode do I go here for this guy? So, given that
Full
they're
hater.
actually okay, if they're writing down City Witty, tell you what, if they write down City Witty, I will be hater. If they write down Kaido,
No.
I will be lover. How does that just sounds like the most bullshit thing ever, but it sounds funny, which is why I'm gonna do it. So that's the most I have to say about this team is that City Witty tricked me with his Batman Clark Kent alter ego, whatever the fuck,
Well, it's
by calling himself
this
Kaido.
this lore gets a little crazier too, Quax. This probably doesn't mean anything to you, but if there's anybody out there who's been drifting around the NA amateur scene, this is the third time City Witty is rebranded. Because back in the like old school like 6 AOE teams in open qualifiers days,
Damn.
City Witty was there too. He used to go by Lean K. If anybody knows Lean K.
Gordo's AJ
So-
himself live.
I'm
on-
sorry,
live
brother.
on
I'm gonna
recording.
do it.
Yeah.
But it's,
Like that is a name I haven't heard since
yeah,
ever.
CTDS
because, like,
is old with me.
like it's enough that I can remember the million AOE teams with Link K, but also not enough for me to remember what the hell he did. So like,
yeah, he played
it's
on
good enough.
on like AOE Ginger Turmeric. He played on AOE Dream.
wait, he
played
was on
on
Ginger Turmeric?
Yeah, he played on like some of the Dinka teams. He played on like AOE Dinka
Okay.
Never Homeless Again or whatever.
Okay, yeah, that those are teams that I remember, but I swear I can never remember whatever they did. But yeah, like I will say though, Quax, I don't think it was what is it called? It was faking it for you or baiting you, since I don't think he probably ever hid it. Like
I
it was
feel
probably
baited.
I think it
Twitter
was
bio
probably
just
clear
says
as
yes,
day.
Kaido is me. Now.
That's so funny. This is like for all those EDM heads out there when like your favorite DJ has like 3 different names and like personas for like different types of EDM music. I learned this the other day. It's like every single
Kaido's his Slim
popular
Shady.
DJ. Yeah, it's like every popular DJ is
not
like
know that.
like if it, I guess this will relate to like maybe 2 people watching, but there's like a DJ called Eric Prydz who makes like very traditional EDM music that you guys all know, and then he has this like dark techno version of himself, and he calls himself Therez D. It's like, how would you ever know those are the 2 same people unless they like came out and announced it? And like, this is the same exact shit. It's very funny to me.
It is very funny.
He probably announced it on his Twitter the same way City Witty did. I'm also him.
So I had somebody DM'd me that it was that Kaido was City Witty. And I was like, I can't, I need to verify this. So I started digging, and I was like gathering all this evidence, right? Like I have all of City Witty's solo queue accounts from when he was in ACL, and I was like looking, and I'm like, oh, he's got a solo queue account called Grim Reaper, and the Kaido Twitter banner says Challenger Grim Reaper on it. And I'm like putting all these pieces together and trying to solve it all. And then I like after like half an hour of this, I arrive on City Witty's Twitter, and it just says, yes, Kaido Jungle is me in the Twitter bio. And I'm like,
so
all right,
funny.
I'm throwing all this shit away. Thanks, City. I confirmed, myth confirmed.
Back to wrap back around this roster. The quick point I want to make on it: I do think this roster can be a threat to promote.
Yeah,
if they play in form for the players that are here, like Cozy. Towards the end of AoE, was pretty impressive in some of his matchups. I think he's better than a lot of the top players we could see here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them we can't really talk about. City Witty, you know, if
you can
if
talk
he
about
returns...
the pool, like we can just make assumptions that every notable player will play.
Yeah, right. So I mean, like
technically, their name is here, so we can just say they are here. We say these names. It's all on Quest.
Here and then, like honestly, like if Cozy's in form like he was before, he can play better than Hoarder and Lawrence, like the 2 top lanes we just talked about. So there's that. And then City Witty, I mean, was an NACL jungler at one point. You know, if we focus more on form than the alter egos, maybe we get back there. Ariendel had his most impressive time in his pro career towards the end of 2024. Summer was very impressive. Nori B is definitely the question mark for me. He's got the raw talent. I think he still needs some fine tuning. And then, you know, how many times we had the Kim Down conversation, right? So this team on paper, like, does have a shot if they're informed. The problem is, the only person I trust to be informed the most here is Ariendel. So,
yep, that's fair.
Which we have to wait and see what form is that. So like, probably not the best shot, but I think it's a bad it's not a bad roster, like 100%. I think this roster can fight against anyone, but in the same way that I say can fight against anyone, can fail against anyone. Like I can see them just losing against a really random team that nobody was expecting them to lose. Just because like they are good, but they are also way too inconsistent in a lot of occasions.
Yeah. I do think they need like one of those 3 teams to have a little bit of a collapse or something, right? Like Respawn Esports loses Shochi and they have to get like, I don't know. I don't want to flame any NA mids. I don't have any beef with any mid laners. I don't want to flame anybody here, but you know, they get somebody that booms their whole team, right? Or, you know, something goes wrong internally, or they lose players to other stuff, and you know,
they get poached
and boom for that reason, right? Yeah, they get quote unquote poached because obviously the poaching rule stuff doesn't really apply at this salary level.
They get poached by Latin America South, actually. They just go to,
they go to Latin America
Brazil. They just go to Brazil's academy that actually is an academy.
Yeah, they go to LTA Sul. Yeah, the other team that's fully announced that might as well talk about for a second here while we're already super over time is Apex Mission Impossible has announced a roster that's Decoy, Lojaz, Fimini, Baz, and Pocus.
Another new mid for AMI.
Another new mid for AMI, but I love this one, dude. I'm excited to see Fimini take a step in here and be really competing on like a contender OQ team. And when I say contender, I mean like, they can hit top 8 or whatever under the old format, assuming that we keep some format like that, because I'm hearing rumors that we won't, but if we assumed it was the old format, they could be When I say contender, I mean they can make like top 8 or something. You know, they're a couple of fancy upsets away from a promo tournament, like cough.
Also, in this document that we're looking at right now, the Quest one, Low Jazz is misspelled. It's two Z's.
Or he's renaming again.
It's Lo Jazz.
Maybe.
Wait, so is it Lo Jazz or
Low
Lo
Jazz.
Jazz?
It's fucking Low Jazz until he comes out and owns something else, dude. I don't care. It's
Or until he does the City Weedy and puts I'm Lo Jazz too.
Another roster that I'm kind of excited for. Not sure what banner it's going to be under, and it's speculative. It's Porsche, Will, Sudsy, Drexer, and Jito, which is another roster that I'm kind of excited to see kind of what they're made of, because hey, I'm glad that Will is still sticking with it, because some people be named Will and they won't do shit, but he is still on this, and I'm glad for that. So I also think that Sudsy and Porsche need other chances. Like, I don't think, like, a lot of people, I feel, write these players off, specifically Porsche, when they shouldn't. So I'm glad to see that they're in here, and I think if they can actually unlock, like, as a team, particularly on this top side, then we could see them be a contender, similar to that of like AMI and potentially Chimek, whatever. I don't care.
Chimek.
I think a lot of the, like you're mentioning, a lot of that will probably be on that top side, but like the good thing here, and depending obviously on how everything goes with OQs, is that there is 3 promotion like spots, so like surprises are bound to happen. I'm 100% willing to bet that there's going to be one upset and one team that will come out of nowhere, and they will be the dark horse to come into play in my eyes. So there's always the chance for that, and also the fact that we, like, this is a kind of a bad thing that we don't know any information, but the fact that we also don't know any information means that we don't know how long these teams are going to be having to wait to play again, right? Because there is the OQs here for promotion, but there technically should be another OQ coming up as soon as this ends for the next NACL split. So if the rosters stay together, they could almost always try and play for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could see this being kind of a roster that stays together, even if they aren't super successful.
They have? They have before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, like I said when we started this section, if you thought the rumors were holding back our coverage of the NACL, then you are going to be real upset when you see OQs, because really, the 5 rosters that we talked about being Nightmare, Tempest, Respawn, Chimek, and AMI, that's all that's confirmed. And there are 32 teams. So 5 out of 32 is quite a low percentage, especially when OQs are supposed to be starting up.
We don't know. Yeah.
Soon.
So actually, maybe they're right on track.
TM.
Maybe they're right on track. Actually, you know, maybe they actually have another month ahead of them. Probably not though. We need to.
And before it's 2 weeks, and teams have to just mesh together in like 3 days before.
Hang on. Hold the fucking phone. We actually can confirm Dantes' team, because they put a YouTube. They put a
well,
YouTube
but we don't know that'll be the
video
final
out.
roster, but we can say it, sure.
But we can talk about it. Yeah, technically.
They put out a YouTube video scrimming against another team. So Dantes' team is gonna be TF Blade, Dantes, Young, Enthralled, and Daption. So I'm gonna let Gordo take this one, because he loves the fact that Young is on this team.
Listen, hey, I love that Enthralled and Daption are here too, man. Right? I'm sure. Look, talk to Slayer about Enthralled being here, okay?
Talk to me.
You love Enthralled.
I do love Daption too. I listen. I've come around on this. It's like, you know, if what we're hearing about the OQs and some of the scenario stuff that I've heard, just go get the content bag. I can't even hate on it anymore. Like, just you're gonna get watched by 100 times more people, probably.
Yeah.
So
that's fair. No disrespect to these players. It's just I don't know.
But I mean, Dantes, I love you. Like, I'm
this team's not qualifying, man. So that's why I don't care to talk about it very much.
I'm sub to you on Twitch, my guy. But like, buddy, put the fries in the bag, bro. Like, you are gonna get outclassed like 9 times out of 10. bring me my burger. I'll have like a Big Mac, a number 2. Give me like a Sprite, medium, and just
He's
fuck
got
off.
the order ready. It's not even Dante's for me. I just can't wait for game 1 TF play to get lane swapped into 2v1 and just
God,
crash
TF
out.
play
That's gonna be the
lane
funniest
swap.
part. He's gonna get lane swapped. He's gonna crash out.
Hey,
And
the
they're
content
gonna
here is
FF.
amazing. Like I
I'm
100%
sure it'll
agree
be
with
funny,
that.
yeah, but
Like these are going to be great moments for almost everyone that will enjoy it, and probably not that great for Dante's team if it gets like flamey. Also, probably not that great for Enthrall and Daption because I don't think. Well, I don't know them behind the scenes, so maybe they are actually just as fire as the other potential as the other
I mean,
members
Daption
potentially.
broke the
So
Seawall
like,
trophy that one time.
yeah,
He's-
base,
he's
yeah.
got
So
he's got
that's
some
the thing.
fire in him. All right.
There's things that we don't know, so this could be just fire content from every member just firing at each other, or they could actually be the surprise and qualify. That's like a 1% chance, but like it's gonna be fun either way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when they start surprising everybody and look like a contender to qualify, we'll talk about them seriously then. Until then, I'm sorry,
enough.
I don't, I don't think it's gonna happen for
Sad,
Dante's
I will
team.
say though, sad that Enthralled being here or potentially being here does mean that this is I think it was the roster, right? Like Donkey Getter is essentially not going to be the same roster, right?
No, there's rumors
is-
about.
Yeah,
pieces
there's
of that
rumors, but
team
like
going out and
if
about.
this is kind of confirmed, it pretty much just confirm everything else, or at the very least that the roster is not coming back together, which is sad. I love the roster last OQs, but hopefully they can perform each in their own rosters if they're coming into the OQs as well.
Fair. All right. Well, with that, let's close things out with some predictions for 2020 2025. Just toss out whatever. Toss out whatever bold prediction you want to make. Maybe not even particularly bold.
So I feel like, okay, so maybe how we play this is we make one prediction for potentially every league. So like LTA, NACL, OQ, we could shout out one thing. All right, so for LTA, I am going to predict that Disguised are going to finish top 4, to be honest with you. I actually think below FlyQuest, Team Liquid, and Cloud9. I don't want to give in, but I have to give in. Cloud9 is going to be DSG. I think they'll be better than 100 Thieves, Shopify, Dignitas, and Lion. Because I said so. I think NACL, Blue Otter are going to finish, or okay, no, actually, that's not really a bold-faced prediction. I think Supernova are going to shit the bed somehow. I don't know how, but I feel like a lot of people are going to place this team like 3rd or 4th. And I want them to be 3rd or 4th, but like the voices are telling me that they are somehow going to mess it up. And then OQs, I'm going to predict that although Nightmare will make it out, Respawn Esports are going to get first.
Okay.
I can
like
follow
this.
on that.
You can take a swing. Go ahead, TDS.
I can follow on that. So for Latan, I think so it can be for the year, right? For the whole year?
Sure.
So I think for Latan, we're going 100 Thieves will win one of the LCSs or one of the titles. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why to a certain degree, but I don't know. Like I think this roster, a little bit more time together, will pull it off. I can see that. Also, B-Boy is going to be the worst AD carry in the league. And then NACL, NACL. I think Blue Water will surprise him. I think they will end up one of the splits top 2. I'll call it right now. I think they will surprise in one of the splits will end top 2 as well. And lastly, for the OQs, I think so. This is a little bit harder to call because there's way too much uncertainty. But out of the 3 expected rosters, I think Tempest will not qualify.
Okay.
Ooh,
Wow. Well,
that's a spicy
okay.
one.
I've got mine. I think it's perfect to go off of TDS.
You can swing
to be
first if
honest.
you want, Slayer. That's fine.
Yeah, so I think the Cloud9 for Aladdin won't be in any of the grand finals for Latin. I don't think they'll make any of them. NACL, I'm going to cop out and say Insanity runs away with most valuable prospects, if they're still calling it that for him, which is very funny.
Oh, they will. They gave one to Mir. They will.
Yeah, that's true. So I think Insanity will run away with most valuable prospect, and then I think Dark Wings will win the MVP equivalent for Tempest.
All right.
I like
Okay.
that. I like that a lot.
I'm gonna go a little bolder for Ladan. Latan sounds right. This is the Cloud9 crash out year, boys. They're not making it international. They're
Dude, if they don't make it international 2 years in a row, the Cloud9 fan base is gonna have a fucking nuclear
They will.
Chernobyl
They're
level
not.
meltdown.
They're not ready for
Entitled
it. I don't think anybody's really ready for it. But it's,
As a former TSM fan, I feel like I'm just watching like Cloud9.
I feel that too,
Oh
dude.
no,
They got the vibes.
Cloud9 is TSM 2.0.
They got the
100%,
vibes,
like,
dude.
they are
The
now-
Loki
they're
pickup is the last straw, dude. It's not.
I really
right.
thought it was going to be a Team Liquid, the one that would take the mantle, and no, Cloud9 did
No, it's
everything in
Cloud9.
their power to do it.
Team Liquid have ascended.
Well, especially, dude, like
Yeah, they were
Loki.
great.
Loki smells like Kaido, man. He just does.
Yeah, I
He's
was gonna
like-
say it's like I feel like I'm just looking at Kaido again.
He just does, dude. It's like you.
Wait, so
Everybody who watches
Wait, so
that
then you
region,
comparing
everybody who
fucking
watches.
Vulcan to Shed
Yeah, I'm not so unlucky.
Everybody who watches LCKCL is like, why this guy? Like that's not a good sign. It's not a good sign.
Look, I kind of get the sentiment that Cloud9 are in, which is like, I hate to say it, but like North America doesn't have a ton of native NA talent that you can realistically put if you want to go for.
Sure, but like people were higher on like
internet.
Saint.
Yes, but like the thing is, Cloud9, I think they just want to get back to internationals. So I feel like going for a Korean mid is it's not like a bad option, but I do think the one that they chose is unproven. I'll put it that way. I feel like it is a little bit too much of a Hail Mary that Cloud9 are used to throwing out. Like usually Cloud9 with their roster building, they play it super fucking safe, right? And you can see that in other avenues of their roster. They got Sven and Vulcan back in the bot lane. These guys are still here in 2025. They're still good, but they're safe options, right? So them going for like a crazy pickup in Loki, I feel like is really off-brand for what we usually see.
Dude. It's weird.
And they've been doing this a lot lately. Like even M&S was very much a Hail Mary.
Sure.
And it thankfully
felt as
worked.
Well, and he was a backup
thankfully
too.
worked.
But yeah, I don't know, dude. It's like, well, and I didn't like those decisions either, to be fair. Like it's I've been I've been very outspoken about not liking the boomerang import approach for a long time. But that's not the only reason, right? It's that like people are just not excited about Loki, and it puts a bad taste in my mouth. I'm worried.
It does, but I could see him surprising. But what I've said about all of these Korean imports is the first split they're always going to not be as good as they could be, right? Like you have to give them at least a year to adapt to the culture shock, which I feel like is something.
Well,
that
this
people
guy's
are
out in a split.
realizing.
I hate to report to you.
Yeah.
This guy's out in a split to whoever's winning EU Masters. So
he better not get replaced. If they better invest in this guy if they're going to pick him up. Like
nah, dude,
I feel like if
they're gonna scramble.
They better not. That's gonna piss me off if they.
Well,
if
that's
they
my
end up
prediction.
replacing
My
him after,
prediction.
like,
This
spring.
is a C9 crash out year.
All right, yeah. So
NACL
NACL
prediction. I think we're gonna be talking about Rovex as an LCS promotion. I think by the end of this year. I think this is a big Rovex year. I think that's my call. I think this guy was starting to like really hit his groove towards the end of 2024. I think there's been some brain drain out of the support position with Chime getting out of there and Winsome getting out of there. I think Rovex could take over this role in NACL and be a guy that we're really talking about as like this guy is somebody people should be considering. I think Zyko's still the odds-on favorite, but when I'm trying to make a bold prediction, Rovex is my guy.
I like it a lot.
And then OQs, I'm probably going to go a little less bold for OQs and say something more broad, but I think with this new promotion structure, I think some of the incentives have shifted around. I think this year in OQs is the year of like dudes who have been good for a long time but haven't really made the jump to being in like in competitive, starting to get involved in competitive. So whether that be like CLAW players who haven't been playing in OQs, or fuck it, we can even say it's Dante's and TF Blade, man. I don't,
Nope.
I
Streamers
see in
that
your
haven't
eyes,
been
but it's
into OQs.
it's them a little bit, but it's also like I think it's more guys like we see Phi Mini on a real OQ team now, and he's previously kind of just been doing ACLs. We see. Calculus, I hope, is coming back, and he was coming. Obviously, Calculus was last year, but definitely, I see King Clueless's name floating around. He's another player who has really, really impressed me in some ACLs and in some CLAW matches and stuff, but has not really made the jump over to playing regularly in OQs and like trying to get into the direct Riot ecosystem. I think that's a pattern that's changing. So I think you're going to, I think it's just the dream, right? It's just the presence of the format, the fact that you can go up into NACL and then hypothetically to LCS is just bringing in old faces and new faces and faces that have previously been adjacent but not quite in the league yet. I think you're going to get to see. I think we're going to get a lot more new names than we would generally expect in a fresh split. Because of that.
Well, it's kind of a return to the idea that anyone can join the LCS if you're good enough, right?
Exactly.
Because now you can get there technically by promoting and promoting. So hopefully it works out like that. Also, just quickly, I wanted to make this as well, like another like over the top prediction. I think Brazil will take third seed. Just quickly pointed out.
Oh, that's gonna hurt.
That would sting.
That would be rough.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say it's not gonna happen. That would be rough.
Yep.
It's a bold prediction for a reason, but yeah, I think I kind of want to see it just because I am technically an outsider, so it can kind of be fun for me. I want to see if it happens.
All right. Well, we will see if it will. That's almost 2 hours, so that'll be this episode of the Salt Mine. Thanks everybody for joining us, for catching up on the off season after our little bit of a break. We're gonna try to start doing episodes a little bit more regularly again. Maybe not always 2 hours, and maybe not every week before anything actually starts happening.
We need more information before we commit to like anything.
Yeah, we'll be back and around. So hopefully you all
Probably
stay
know
tuned.
when OQs are.
Yeah, when we know when OQs are, we'll be sharing that for sure. But till next time, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time.